Have you ever seen those images from Animal Crossing Pocket Camp that are full of all kinds of amazing items, and then you just wish these items were in New Horizons? Well, maybe it's a good thing they aren't. If you didn't know, many of the items in Pocket Camp are locked behind leaf tickets, which you can earn for free, but there's definitely a need to spend real additional money if you want to collect everything, as they only give you so many of these out for free. The same applies for these fortune cookies, which can end up being very expensive, all to just give you what you didn't really want. The odds for getting some of the rarer items are really low. These fortune cookies in particular would be considered loot boxes, something infamous within the gaming community, and it could be really bad news for Pocket Camp in the future. Back in 2019, the game was dealt a huge blow in Belgium over loot box laws. Due to the country's stance on loot boxes, the game was effectively forced to entirely change the gacha style system, or simply close down, and Nintendo took the easy way out. Unfortunately, this meant that a good chunk of players completely lost access to the game. They went as far to say that future Nintendo games with similar earnings models will no longer be released in Belgium either, which is a pretty big deal. Now it seems like Nintendo is trying hard to make things more transparent like the screens I'm showing you, but it still might not be enough to save the game in more EU countries where a huge portion of players and game revenue can be found. More and more countries are tackling games that have excessive loot boxes due to gambling laws, especially newer laws centered around gaming. Very recently, this happened in FIFA in Austria. Now, I'm no lawyer, so I can't tell you the specifics of this, but it's definitely feeling like it could become a thing overall where in the EU, games are forced to stop using this model. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of loot boxes or gacha style games, but I know a lot of people do like that. Either way, it certainly would put Pocket Camp in trouble, as it's absolutely full of things like this. It's heavily encouraged within the game. Nintendo is also much more likely just to shut the game down entirely across the EU than make the changes to remove these types of revenue models, as we've seen here in Belgium. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like the majority of people did not want this in New Horizons, but there were definitely calls for some players to have the microtransaction style gameplay in New Horizons too, and honestly, I think it's a good idea that Nintendo didn't do this. While some major Nintendo Switch games do have things like this, the majority of them do not. And I do feel like that is because Nintendo is cautious about the gambling laws. Let's be honest, they could have made so much money by having these in Animal Crossing New Horizons, but at the end of the day, I just feel like it wouldn't have worked very well for the game at all. I remember playing Pocket Camp still when they decided to go more heavy-handed with the microtransactions and premium items, and honestly, a lot of people stopped playing, and I definitely feel like that would have been the case for New Horizons. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see all of these items from Pocket Camp in New Horizons, but I don't think having them done that way would have been a good idea at all. It would have been much better just to have them all in a free update, although it seems like they wouldn't have done that given people needed to actually spend real money on them in Pocket Camp. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. What do you think about loot boxes in video games? What do you think about Pocket Camp as well, and would it have been a bad idea to have this style of gameplay in New Horizons? If you made it to the end, then be sure to comment Bob's Gang down below so I know you did. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on notifications for more.